Ready meals. The 3 pounds billion illusion. There's a woman in the ready meal aisle. 2 kids hanging off the trolley, visibly tired. Doing that mental calculation everyone does: time versus money versus sanity. She reaches for a pre-made pasta bake. But here's what the packaging makes sure she doesn't think about. That exact same meal, made from scratch, costs about £1.20, maybe 20 minutes of actual work. But it's not marketed as a convenience upcharge. It's marketed as a solution, a rescue. And that shift in language is worth billions to the grocery chains. The ready meal category in the UK pulls in over £3 billion annually. £3 billion for food that costs pennies to produce, packaged in plastic, loaded with preservatives, sold at a markup that would make a luxury car dealer blush. And it works because the framing is perfect. Except there's a pattern here. One that shows up in aisle after aisle, and once it becomes visible, it's hard to unsee. Bottled water. Paying 500 times more. Take bottled water. Walk through any Sainsbury's, any Asda, and watch how many people load up on it. Individual bottles. £1 each. Sometimes more. And here's the uncomfortable part. The UK has some of the safest tap water in the world. Tested constantly. Regulated heavily. Essentially free. But somewhere along the way, bottled water became a default purchase. Nestle, Evian, Highland Spring, they've made people distrust the thing coming out of their own taps in favor of the thing that costs 500 times more and comes wrapped in single-use plastic. The margin on bottled water is obscene. It costs almost nothing to produce, and the grocery chains can charge whatever the market will bear. Grated cheese, the wood pulp premium. Walk past the cheese section in any major supermarket. The block is £2.40 for 400 grams. The grated version, £2.80 for 200 grams. Sometimes worse. So, what's being paid for here? Someone ran the cheese through a grater. That's it. 5 seconds of work that anyone could do at home, and it doubles the price per gram. But it's positioned as convenience, and people pay it. Every single week. And here's where it gets interesting. The grated cheese doesn't even melt as well. It's coated in anti-caking agent cellulose, which is wood pulp to stop it clumping in the bag. So it's more expensive, there's less of it, and it performs worse. But it saves 30 seconds. Maybe pre-chopped vegetables. £1.50 for a 30p onion. There's a version of this everywhere. Pre-chopped vegetables, onions, peppers, butternut squash, all sitting in plastic containers, priced at 3 or 4 times what the whole vegetable costs. The pre-chopped onion costs £1.50 for what amounts to one actual onion, which costs 30p. The defense is always the same: time, convenience, modern life. Except it's not really about time. It's about the perception of time, the feeling of being too busy to do basic things. And once that feeling is established, the pricing can go anywhere, because people aren't buying onions anymore. They're buying back minutes of their day, or at least, they think they are. The supermarkets know this. They've studied it. The entire prepared produce section exists because behavioral research showed that people will pay extraordinary premiums to avoid minor inconveniences as long as the framing is right. Branded painkillers, chemically identical, 10 times the price. Then there's branded paracetamol. Walk into Boots, any supermarket pharmacy section. There's the Nurofen, the Anodin, the big glossy boxes. £4, £5 for 16 tablets. And right next to them, usually on a lower shelf, is the store brand. Same active ingredient, same dosage. 30p, sometimes less. The only difference is the packaging and the advertising budget. Nurofen has spent decades convincing people that their paracetamol is somehow superior. It's not. It's chemically identical. But the branding works. The premium pricing signals quality. And people pay it over and over because they've been taught to associate the brand with relief. Branded cereal, paying for nostalgia. Breakfast cereal does something similar, but with a different angle. The big brands, Kellogg's, Nestle, they own the nostalgia. A box of Cocoa Pops costs about £3.50. Supermarket own brand chocolate rice cereal costs £1.20. Same product, same sugar content. But people pay the premium because it feels like the real thing. The own brand version feels like a compromise, even though blind taste tests consistently show people can't tell the difference. The branding has made the cheaper option feel cheaper, not in price, but in value. And this is where the system really shows itself. The decision to buy Cocoa Pops instead of the own brand version isn't a decision. It's automatic, it's emotional, and it happens millions of times a day across the UK. Meal deals. The £3.50 ritual meal deals. Tesco, Sainsbury's, Boots, sandwich, snack, drink for £3.50. And it feels like value. Except, break it down. The sandwich costs maybe 60p to make. The crisps cost about 15p. The drink is tap water with syrup, maybe 10p, but it's sold as convenience. As a complete lunch solution, and people grab it every day without thinking about the fact that the exact same lunch, assembled at home, costs about £1 and tastes better because it hasn't been sitting in a chiller for 2 days. But the meal deal has become a ritual, a default. And the margins on these things are extraordinary. Single-serving fruit, paying for plastic. Then there's single-serving fruit pots, chopped mango, pineapple chunks, all in little plastic containers, priced at £2.50 for what amounts to about a quarter of the original fruit, which costs less than £1. And the fruit itself is often lower quality, the bits that wouldn't sell as whole fruit. So it's more expensive, there's less of it, and it's not as good. But it comes in a container that fits in a bag. Pre-washed salad. Triple the price, half the shelf life. Pre-washed salad does the same thing. Those bags of mixed leaves cost £2 for what's essentially a handful of greens. A whole head of lettuce costs 60p. But washing leaves takes effort. So people pay triple for someone else to rinse some vegetables. And here's the thing. Those pre-washed leaves go bad faster. The washing process damages them, speeds up decomposition. So people end up throwing away more, buying more, spending more. Fresh herbs in plastic, the windowsill alternative. Fresh herbs in those little plastic clamshells. £1.50 for about 10 grams of basil. A whole plant costs the same price, lasts longer, grows back, but the clamshell feels convenient. So people buy it every week, even though half ends up in the bin. Flavored water, sugar water in wellness packaging. Flavored water, vitamin water, Glasso. £2 a bottle for water with fruit extract and sugar. Sometimes as much sugar as a can of Coke. But it's marketed as wellness, as hydration with benefits. People buy it thinking they're making a healthy choice, not realizing they're drinking what's essentially a soft drink with better branding. Low-fat products, more sugar, higher price. Low-fat products do something similar. Low-fat yogurt costs more than regular yogurt. And it tastes worse, because fat is flavor. So manufacturers add sugar, sometimes more calories than the full-fat version. But the word low-fat triggers something. It signals health. So people pay extra for a product that's been made worse, made sweeter, all while thinking they're doing something beneficial. Organic everything, the status markup. And then organic products. Organic carrots cost 3 times what regular carrots cost. Organic milk is double. And for most products, the nutritional difference is negligible. Study after study has shown this, but organic has become a status marker, a signal of caring. And the supermarkets have priced it at a premium that has nothing to do with production costs and everything to do with what people are willing to pay to feel good about themselves. The system behind the shelf. None of this is accidental. Every single one of these products exists because extensive research has shown that people will pay more to avoid minor inconveniences, to feel healthier, to save time they don't actually save. The grocery chains aren't villains. They're businesses. They've simply optimized for human psychology. They've found the pressure points and built entire aisles around them. Pre-grated cheese for people who feel too busy. Bottled water for people who've been taught to distrust their taps. Branded painkillers for people who've learned to associate higher prices with quality. And it works because most people are moving through the supermarket on autopilot. They're not calculating cost per gram. They're not comparing products. They're just shopping, filling the trolley with things that feel right, that feel normal. But once the pattern becomes visible, Once it's clear how much of the grocery shop is built on these tiny manipulations, these incremental upcharges, these engineered conveniences, it starts to feel different, not scandalous, just designed. The woman with the kids in the ready meal aisle, the person loading up on bottled water, the shopper reaching for pre-chopped onions, they're not being stupid. They're navigating a system that's been built over decades to make certain choices feel easier, smarter, better, even when the maths says otherwise. And the supermarkets will keep doing it because it works. Because the gap between what something costs to produce and what someone will pay for it is where the entire industry lives. The question isn't really whether these products should exist. It's whether people know what they're actually paying for. Whether they're making choices or just following paths that have been very carefully laid out for them, and most of the time, they don't know. They don't think about it. They just shop, which is exactly how the system is designed to work.